What is up, guys? It is your boy, the All Pro Wrestling Bro, and my name is JPK, and welcome to the All Pro Wrestling Bro show. Yes, it's a new show I'm starting. I hope you guys enjoy it. I just got done watching the whole build up to Survivor Series 2011. So, what this series is going to consist of me watching random pay per view build ups and random pay per views. Whatever pay per view I watch the build up leading to that pay per view from start to finish. This will go over Survivor Series 2011. It will go over the Raw after Vengeance 2011, October 24th, 2011 to November 20th, 2011 at Survivor Series. This will go over every single show heading into Survivor Series, Raw and SmackDown. And when you were when I was young, I was 11 years old at the time. I was just watching the product for about over a year, and I thought it was the greatest shit in the world. I didn't have the mindset that I did back then, or the smarts, or the brilliance that I have, or, you know, being in tune, or looking in depth, or thinking behind the scenes. I didn't think about that back then. And after watching this show, Survivor Series, and watching all the Raws and SmackDowns leading up to it, I can say that, in my honest opinion, that this was one of the worst build-ups of Survivor Series in WWE history. I have a lot of reasons for it. I'm going to go over show by show leading up to Survivor Series, and I'm going to give you those reasons because I always feel like your big four pay-per-views should be treated with importance. It shouldn't be treated as something promoting another pay-per-view that's not for 6 months. That's not what I want to see. I want Survivor Series to be treated like Survivor Series, like the Survivor Series that we know back from 1987 when it first was born. And I had issues with the build-up, and I had issues with this show. I will go over it, and I hope you guys like it. So the first thing we're going to go over is Monday Night Raw from October 24th, 2011. This was the night after Vengeance. This was the night after Big Show and Mark Henry broke the ring. This is the night after Kevin Nash took out Triple H during the tag match with R-Truth, The Miz, and CM Punk as his partner. This was after the night John Cena was in that last man standing match with Alberto Del Rio and all that. And when I remember from the show when I was watching all these years ago, and I watched this show back now, and it's actually not a bad Raw. The first half was actually pretty decent. The second half, it fell off, as I usually see on Raws nowadays. Like, sometimes they have these moments where they start really hot and then they fall off like a train wreck. So Triple H started the show. He called out Kevin Nash. He thought he was his friend. He trusted him. He was, brother to him. And he's kind of like shook and everything and all mad and pissed off that Kevin Nash would do that to him. As you guys know, earlier in the fall or in the late summer, Kevin Nash got fired off Raw for the way he was acting. And I think he was supposed to face CM Punk at Night of Champions that year. And storyline, he got fired. And Kevin Nash wanted his revenge on Triple H for what he did. So Triple H was pissed. John Laurinaitis was telling Triple H that he could not act this way. He could not act like this is a COO. And Triple H said, I'm the COO, and as your COO, I want you to go find Kevin Nash. And if you don't, I'll go to his house and look for him. So Triple H just walks out of the ring, and he goes up to apron, and John Laurinaitis is still telling Triple H, you're not supposed to act this way. And I'm not going to lie to you about John Laurinaitis. I did not care for John Laurinaitis. I thought he was boring. It's not that because he's a heel and I should hate him. It's just like, there's just something about John Laurinaitis that wasn't very interesting to me, and that's just my honest opinion. Just his delivery and all that, it just never got across to me. It was just, he's not like an Eric Bischoff or a Paul Heyman general manager, or Triple H Stephanie from the early 2000s, Vince McMahon or anything like that. Like, John Laurinaitis, it just did not click with me, and I never got into John Laurinaitis. Not that because I hate him because he was a bad guy. I just didn't like him. I just thought he was boring. So Triple H is standing up on the stage. Kevin Nash comes up behind, hits a sledgehammer right in the back of Triple H. Triple H is in pain. He can barely move, and they take him backstage. He passes out from the pain. They put him on a stretcher, bring him to the ambulance, and Kevin Nash comes back in camera view, and he is pretty much pushing security out of the way. He picks up the stretcher Triple H is on, pushes him against these boxes, and he's threatening people with sledgehammer. He's got this incensed look on his face, and he's just going crazy. And then he takes sledgehammer and he smashes him in the face with it. Triple H is down, and the security pretty much pushes Kevin Nash back, and that was actually a really good segment. I actually liked that segment back then, and I still liked it now. I had my issues with it, of course, though. I don't like that Kevin Nash is getting these opportunities. I didn't. He's old. At the time, I was very concerned of the match quality because I felt like that this match was going to be shit. I don't remember a lot from the match. I haven't looked it back. I've only seen it once. The build of that segment was actually really good. My concern was that Kevin Nash is old, and I just wasn't into Kevin Nash in 2011 compared to Diesel in 94, Kevin Nash in 96 with the NWO, I feel like Kevin Nash in 2011 just did not fit WWE. And people say that Vince gets sick of old guys, and when they get old, he pushes them in the back. I think that's a load of shit, knowing I'm going to go into now, Goldberg. He pushes old guys now. Oh, they wasn't pushing Matt Hardy because he was old. No, because that's bullshit, because he pushes Goldberg, I think age has never mattered to Vince. And you guys say that Vince doesn't push old guys, or Vince doesn't push old guys, according to other people, which I think is totally false, because he has pushed old guys and gave Kevin Nash TV time for a little bit. And I'll always say that Kevin Nash, Diesel, should have only made that one appearance at the Rumble and should have just stayed out of it from there. So that was that. And then they went to a tag match with Randy Orton and Sheamus versus Christian and Cody Rhodes. It wasn't really anything special. I don't even remember the ending. I believe Randy Orton and Sheamus won that match. It wasn't a special tag match by any means. It's not going to be anything that people are going to be talking about. It was pretty, it was just boring. I didn't pay attention to much of it. You know what I'm saying? It was just kind of like, tag match, open Raw as usual, yay. But I didn't really care very much. John Laurinaitis is pretty much going crazy about, thinking Raw's a mess because how Triple H was running things. And he's pretty much feel like he's being blamed for Triple H's injuries, which we know, in storyline-wise, that John Laurinaitis set Triple H up so he could take control of Raw. Santino Marella versus Dolph Ziggler. Obviously, this match didn't last very long. It was pretty much a squash match. Dolph Ziggler got the win, and I have really not much to say on this match. Nothing special at all, so I'm just going to move on from there. Alberto Del Rio Championship Celebration. He's pretty much celebrating his last man standing match from last night. He pretty much beats the night, not last night, but Vengeance. I'm talking present. I gotta control that. But he beat John Cena last man standing match at Vengeance because of the involvement of R-Truth and The Miz taking Cena out. Alberto took advantage and he got the win. During the match, the ring was broken because of Big Show and Mark Henry. Del Rio got the win, and Del Rio celebrating, saying no one can beat him. There's no other competition. He's pretty much beating everybody. Punk comes out. He's calling out Del Rio. Hasn't gotten his one-on-one rematch yet, and Del Rio is refusing to give him a title opportunity. Then John Laurinaitis says that John Laurinaitis came out, and he told CM Punk that the only way you'll get your title match, but the only way you'll do that is you have to tell me you respect me. Obviously, Punk was joking around saying, I respect you, and he was like mocking him and everything like that. As great as Punk was, and I loved the way how he would roast John Laurinaitis all the time. And I liked how he roasted him when his mic wasn't up far enough to his mouth, which that was kind of funny. You could tell that John Laurinaitis didn't know how to keep a mic close to his mouth so people couldn't hear him, and Punk was funny with that. But yeah, obviously Punk wasn't obeying and wasn't being sincere, so John Laurinaitis did not give him that title match there, right there and then. Natalya Neidhart versus Alicia Fox. Divas match, bathroom break. I believe Natalya won. Nothing special at all there. It was pretty. It was just your typical Divas match because back then it wasn't WWE was still in the Divas age and they were not giving a shit about their woman. They sometimes still don't give a shit about their woman now. They're still stuck in the Divas mindset with their blondes, but this match was obviously didn't last long. Seems like it only lasted like 2-3 minutes, and Natalya got the win, I believe. Pretty much a squash match. Who gives a shit? John Morrison versus Wade Barrett. So this was during a time when John Morrison was pretty much having a lot of losses. He totally fell off. Like, when John Cena came back, it was not John Cena. Sorry, I'm thinking John Cena. John Morrison, when he came back to WWE in 2000 this year, I said that he was not going to get pushed because Vince has always seen him as a mid-card act or lower mid-card act. They tried to give him a WWE title push. They didn't follow through with it. John Morrison had all the tools to be champion at one point, but they just did not see him as that. And Vince obviously got turned off by him, and he started losing matches for months on end. Morrison was in the same situation here against Barrett. The match was okay, but Morrison pretty much got destroyed at the end, and he lost due to Wasteland 1, 2, 3. Morrison lost. It wasn't anything special of a match. The match wasn't bad, but it was nothing that was investing, and Morrison was on a losing streak, and you knew his contract was going up at the time because he would be leaving WWE at the end of 2011. This was at the end of October, so his contract was getting close to an end. So then they went to Michael Cole, and Michael Cole is calling out JR again, and I'm going to be pretty honest, going off here, that JR will always be a great commentator, and except Jim Ross is obviously not what he used to be now. I know AEW, he's not the same Jim Ross we knew back then, and he's older now. Jim Ross in his prime can bring it, though, and he will never compare to Michael Cole. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm a dumbass for saying that. Michael Cole will never compare to Jim Ross. And that's the truth. And I feel like WWE always were throwing shade at Jim Ross all about his weight and all this, or barbecue. I feel like they were always disrespecting Jim Ross. Not to be salty or offended or anything, but like it just, to me, it just shows that you just can't do anything good on your own because WWE doesn't like when you do things good on your own if you're not their creation or their corporate puppet. And that's kind of like what I see with Jim Ross. So Michael Cole was pretty much challenging Jim Ross to the Michael Cole Challenge. I will definitely be getting into that later in this show. I have a lot to say on that later. And he's challenging for that in the coming weeks on Raw. He said next week, but I'll tell you more about that later. And he just kept challenging him. He thinks he's the better commentator, and he cannot get over that. And Michael Cole said if he loses his challenge, that he will leave commentary and Jim Ross can take his position, which I won't have mind that because Michael Cole sucks. Josh Matthews interviewed Zack Ryder. He was supposed to be teaming with Cena in the tag match on Raw, but Zack Ryder got attacked backstage by Miz and R-Truth, which will leave John Cena on his own, and it would be a handicap match. Awesome Truth versus John Cena handicap match. The match was shit. It was a shit main event. This show overall was 50-50 at that point. It had a strong starting. It was a decent start, but then they fell off and it turned into not a good show. Handicap match to end Raw is just not the moves for me. I hate when WWE's done this shit before and they end it with this handicap match or tag matches in general because they overdo it all the time with that. And the match was not that good. I believe John Cena won by DQ. I don't remember. It was not that good of a match. But then they attacked Cena and they took the advantage, the 2-on-1 advantage. And after that, John Cena took the mic John Laurinaitis came out, and obviously John Laurinaitis said, well, me picking a partner obviously didn't work out knowing what happened. So he gave John Cena an option to pick his partner for Survivor Series. John Cena takes the mic and he picks somebody that he knows very well. Obviously someone that he's not buddy-buddy with, but he's going to pick him anyway. And he picked The Rock. And that led to the big Rock and Cena tag match at Survivor Series, which will be a thing where it would never happen again. And this show was not that good. This Monday Night Raw was not that good. It had a strong start and it just fell off. But I am going to be completely honest. I will tell you what I think was the best Raw on SmackDown later on, adding into this build. And this was I'll tell you, hint that this was probably one of the one of the better Raws heading into Survivor Series, even for the post Vengeance show. So now we're on to Friday Night SmackDown. This was from, I believe, October 28th, 2011. From this show, if I can go in depth, the show wasn't horrible. One thing I hate about these SmackDowns back then is that it was taped and they piped in those stupid cheers on the screen. It just was awful, so forced. That's why it was so hard to watch SmackDown. Now, I didn't realize that back then when I was young. I actually thought that was a real audience, my dumbass self. But the show quality went down because they always did that shit. Sometimes it was better weeks than others with that, but sometimes it was just so bad where I just hated the cheers back then. It was so over dramatic and I hated that. It was just so forced. They'd put cheers on people that people don't usually cheer for, or boos who they don't usually boo heavily for. It was just so forced. They wanted you to feel that way. I hated that back then. They still do that now for tape shows whenever they go taped or something. I'm glad they didn't do that for the empty arena shows, because that would be awful. But Peter Alon opened the show and he's addressing what happened at Vengeance. Big Show came out. He is all sore. Big Show and Mark Henry came out. They're selling their injuries from Vengeance, which that was the one thing I appreciate, is that they were selling their injuries, because some people don't sell their injuries. They go through this hectic match, this brutal spots and everything, injuries, and they're not selling their stuff. And I like that they were selling their backs because of what happened on the ring. I think that was smart of them. And pretty much this set up for their next match at Survivor Series. And I was like, whatever. I mean, I didn't care. I didn't really react very much back then, and I still didn't react much now. I was not into this feud back in 2011. I liked the initial start with Mark Henry taking Big Show out, but I felt like that the feud in late 2011 lasted too long, and I felt like it dragged on too long, and it could have ended at Survivor Series, and Daniel Bryan could have cashed it in at Survivor Series. I would have liked if he did it at Mania 28, but I wish he would have done it at Survivor Series, but I'll get further into that later. But yeah, that was just one thing about that. Miz and R-Truth versus Air Boom. They pretty much booked themselves in the corner in this, because you have your tag champions and you have Miz and R-Truth, who are going to be in a big time tag match at Survivor Series. I don't know why they booked this match. I don't know why they did that. Number one, I hate when your champions are pinned, and I hate when they do that shit. And you're pretty much booking yourself in the corner. You risk having your champions lose, or you have Miz and R-Truth lose, but you don't want to do that because, well, they're being a big time tag match, and they were kind of on fire heading out of, with Hell in a Cell and Vengeance. But this match wasn't too bad. It was okay. They want Miz and R-Truth while pinning the champions, which I hate when your champions are pinned. It pisses me off all the time. But yes, they got the win, and I didn't see them get a tag team title opportunity in there at all. But after this, I didn't see Evan Bourne on TV anymore after that. I think he was on suspension because he was dealing with other substances back then, and he was getting suspended a lot. So that was kind of causing his run in WWE, if I remember that correctly. Tyson Kidd confronted Dale Bryan backstage. He says, pretty much challenging who's the better wrestler, Shawn or Brett, because Daniel Bryan's talking about how he was trained by Shawn Michaels. And Tyson Kidd's arguing that Brett was the better wrestler, and Daniel's like, Shawn's the better wrestler. And then they decided they're going to settle it in the ring. So that was pretty much that backstage segment. Hornswoggle's impersonating Zack Ryder, cringy shit. And then, forgot her name. That one girl that be flirting with Teddy Long all the time. But anyways, she would always flirt with Teddy, and when I saw it when I was 11, I'm like, bruh, Teddy, you're too old for that. And then, I think it was Oksana. I don't remember, but yeah, it was just, I don't know what I thought with Teddy Long getting flirted backstage every week by her. I just didn't care very much, and I felt like that storyline wasn't very interesting, in my honest opinion. Some parts were a little comical, but at the same time, I just did not give a shit about that. With Teddy Long getting flirted backstage all the time, I don't know what that was leading up to, and at the end, it was just a big waste of time. Wade Barrett versus Trent Beretta. Yes, Trent. Question mark? Trent Beretta. I always forget that Trent Beretta was in WWE. He was just a jobber in WWE, knowing how talented he was. WWE did not give him that opportunity. It was pretty much a squash match against Wade Barrett. He lost. He tried to defend himself, but he just got squashed, and that match didn't last very long. And Wade Barrett wound up getting the win with Wasteland. Randy Orton versus Dolph Ziggler. This wasn't a bad match, actually. It was a decent match. Dolph Ziggler and Randy Orton always had some decent matches that I remember. I think my favorite by them was Night of Champions 2012. But Randy Orton and Dolph Ziggler had a decent match here, and what I noticed about SmackDown throughout this build is they had more wrestling than segments. I don't know if it's because they had less time. They didn't have that over the 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock hour, but they had a decent match here. Dolph Ziggler sold the RKO. He always sells Randy Orton's RKOs like crazy, and they were beautiful at the same time. The match was decent. Dolph Ziggler had some cool, nice drop kicks on Orton. Randy Orton would fight back here and there, and then Randy Orton wound up getting the RKO, went for the win. Decent match. I would say that was the best match on that show. So that's all I kind of have to say on that. Hunico introduced himself the week before. They were talking about how Hunico... I remember this feud, by the way. I thought it was the stupidest stuff back then. I still think it was stupid now. Hunico was in Mexico City. It was Sin Cara Azul versus Sin Cara. The other Sin Cara. I'm not going to use that word. I don't like using that word for some reason. It's a color, but I didn't care about that feud then. Still don't care about it now. Hunico introduced himself for the first time, pretty much basically his debut since he's not in Sin Cara anymore. And yeah, it wasn't... I was like, okay, whatever. Brodus Clay is coming to SmackDown. Well, here's the deal, guys. You remember those video packages of Brodus Clay and how dominant of a monster that he was meant to be? Oh, we were in for a surprise, if you know what I mean. I'm not talking about that, because that's actually not part of the build. Daniel Bryan versus Tyson Kidd. It was actually not a very long match. I wish they had more time. If they were actually given 15 to 20 minutes, this could have been a great match, but they weren't. It was only a few-minute match. Daniel Bryan wound up getting the win pretty quick, and that was it. And he was pretty much proving that, yeah, he was taught by a better wrestler and all that. But it was not a very long match. If these two were actually given time, they probably could put on a classic, but they didn't give him that time. They never thought of Tyson Kidd as anyone valuable. He was so talented, and he was never given the opportunity. The best stuff I saw from Tyson was when he first came into the main roster in 2010, and then when he was with Cesaro in 2015, before his career got ended. If Bryan and Tyson were given time here, they probably would have put on a pretty good match, but they weren't, obviously. Michael Cole continues to issue a challenge to Jim Ross. He's pretty much saying, or hyping it up for the October 31st edition of Raw. He's continuing to go on about that, making fun of Jim Ross, his weight, and blah, blah, blah. It was just awful. I just did not care. Ah, I see what I did wrong here. So Big Show addressed Mark Henry here. I totally forgot how that came about and everything. I would have to go back and check it out. But Teddy Long, I guess, was not. He definitely made this rematch for Survivor Series, but I thought Big Show and Mark Henry opened the show. But I guess they didn't because it was actually later in the show. Maybe I should have. I'm going to put this on mute. I'm going to see something. I'm going to look something back real quick. I'm actually going to play this in the background. I'm going to keep it on mute so I can just look at this real quick. But, yeah, so Big Show and Mark Henry opened the show. Did not open the show, but I remember the segment, though. I thought it was with Teddy, but it wasn't. So, Big Show addressed what happened at Vengeance, and he's pretty much calling out Mark. And Mark Henry comes out, and like I said, they were selling injuries like pros. They were selling them like insanely good. Honest, not insanely good, but they were selling them, which I respected. And Big Show's pretty much challenging Mark to another match. Mark thinks he shouldn't give him another title opportunity. He felt like he came out supreme, and he shouldn't be giving Show another opportunity. Well, the match, they pretty much agreed. It's pretty much set up that they're going to be having another match at Survivor Series, and that's what was pretty much confirmed with how they're building the story up. And I'm actually going to go see what opened the show. It was 10 minutes long. Christian opened the show. Okay, I remember that now. Alright, I remember what happened there. So Christian opened the show. And Christian is still going on that tirade about how he should be getting another world title opportunity after world title opportunity. And he's been asking. He became a whiny, like how I described in SummerSlam, a whiny little bitch. And Christian is always asking every week for another title opportunity, being annoying that he was. And he would always ask for another title opportunity because he was obsessed with the World Heavyweight title. CM Punk came out and he interrupted him, and he's pretty much sick of Christian, how he would describe it, bitching and bitching and bitching. And that segment was actually not a bad segment. It set up a singles match for later that night, and I don't remember a lot from the show when I was young. I was young back then, and he pretty much set up a match. They set up a match between the two for the main event of SmackDown. And if they were actually took handcuffs off and all that, they probably would have had a great match. But my opinion is not really there for that. CM Punk versus Christian, the main event. It was an okay match. It wasn't horrible. It was decent. It didn't really do much for me. I think Alberto was on commentary. Alberto Del Rio was kind of trying to interfere here and there throughout the match. Punk would wind up getting the win in this, and it was a decent match, but nothing too special. The show overall, I thought was better than Raw. I don't know why. I think because it had more wrestling on the show, but it was definitely, I thought, the better show that week. I still hate the crowd cheers piped in or boos. That still irritates shit on me. And I'm sorry for that little fuck up, because I thought that Mark and Big Show opened the show, but they didn't. It was actually Punk and Christian. So I knew something was off there. But yeah, it was a decent show. Match of the night was Randy Orton versus Dolph Ziggler for this one. It was okay show. It was nothing horrible. I didn't fall asleep or anything. But it is what it is. I still thought it was a weak build to Survivor Series. And SmackDown back then, when it was taped and all that, even when they were ending that current brand split, it wasn't that interesting. It was definitely the B show. No one cared. The ratings were lower than Raw. People hated it when the cheers were piped in. That's just kind of how it was back then. And yeah, that's kind of just what I think about that show. Overall, it wasn't it was okay, but nothing special. Now, this is a show that I'm not looking forward to going over because, well, this show was fucking awful. Awful. The worst one in the entire build. It didn't even feel like a build-up to Survivor Series. It was obviously a Halloween edition. It was on October 31st, 2011. And this was horseshit. It was bad. Bad. Do you know who was hosting this show? The Muppets. Yeah, the Muppets. I forgot about this show, and I'm glad I forgot. I think my 11-year-old self thought this was bad too. Because if I can't remember this I forgot about this shit. I remember not watching it, but this was, watching it back, it's like, God, this was fucking awful. Like, it was just as bad back then as it is now. It's just, I have nothing to say. But the show opened up with via satellite or video recording. The Rock pretty much answers John Cena's request for Survivor Series. And The Rock doesn't want to accept it, knowing how he feels about him. But for the people in attendance, he did. And he agreed that he was going to team up with Cena at Survivor Series, even though the differences they have. The promo was decent. Not one of my favorite Rock promos, but it was actually a decent way to start the show. I enjoyed the promo. The Rock always brought this energy in his promos that not a lot of people bring today when it comes to electrifying the crowd, and I'm going to use electrifying, there isn't a lot like The Rock, He brought a different vibe to the table, but it was a decent start. Opening match was CM Punk versus Mark Henry. The match did not last very long. It was World Heavyweight Champion versus potential challenger to the WWE Championship, CM Punk. It was ended by Del Rio, because if Punk defeated Mark Henry, the World Heavyweight Champion. So here's the thing that pissed me off. Okay, so here's why I was getting so pissed off. So the rule was that you had to pin Mark Henry, who was the World Heavyweight Champion, to get a WWE title shot. Does that make any sense to you? Or am I just losing my fucking mind? Like, who in their right mind thinks this makes sense? Do you guys think this makes sense? I would think, in a logical sense, knowing how WWE likes to pin their champions, that if you pin the World Heavyweight Champion, you get the World Heavyweight title shot. But you have to pin the World Heavyweight Champion to get a WWE title shot? They couldn't have picked anyone else, and they picked Mark Henry. So obviously, they booked themselves in another corner, so they just did the DQ finish, obviously. Del Rio interfered. Well, Ricardo interfere. He attacked Mark Henry, actually, to cause CM Punk to get DQ'd and not get his title match. And it was just a stupid match. It was horseshit. It did nothing for me. It didn't make sense, because, okay, so you're going to risk your World Heavyweight Champion getting pinned so your other guy gets a WWE title opportunity? That makes no sense. No sense. It made no sense then. It makes no sense now. Classic WWE booking for you. That pissed me off. I had to get that off my chest. The match wasn't special either. Oh, this is another one. Let me get through this. Let me tell you about this one. Vicky Guerrero and Jack Swagger confronting the Muppets. Yes, the Muppets hosted this show. I told you this earlier in this. It was so cringy, talking to stuffed puppets. I'm sorry. I know I probably have my Muppets fans out there, and I get that, but it was just awful. And I hated it. It was so cringy. I think I had to turn my volume down so my peeps didn't think of what the hell am I watching? It's so, it was awful. I hated it. It was not good at all. Kermit the Frog was flirting with Kelly and all that garbage. It was just Kelly kissed a stuffed frog and puppet or whatever, and I hated it. Number one contender, Divas Battle Royal. I think Eve won this, because I actually forgot who won this when I got to the actual pay-per-view itself. But this was pretty much determining the number one contender for the Divas title at Survivor Series. Eve won this. I hated these Battle Royal rules for Divas back then, because you didn't even have to go over the top rope. You just go through the middle or something, and that's it. And they were dressed up in costumes. It was, I didn't even pay attention to any of this. I don't even think I remember who won until I saw the Survivor Series show. Eve won this. Don't know anything else that happened on the show. Don't even remember the order of who was eliminated by who or what. This match was horseshit. Fucking awful. No, I hated those women battle royals back then. I hated them. It was stupid. So they go to backstage, and Dr. Bunsen Honeydew, the puppet, makes a drink for Santino. Obviously, that would play a factor later in the show. I hate talking about this show. So Jameis is backstage. I think Christian was pretty much bullying the puppet. Sheamus got mad and he confronted Christian, and Sheamus would check with Bunsen and ask him, "Hey, how's it going?" And then he hunts in and is like she's not even speaking words, and Sheamus is understanding him. I'm like, what the fuck am I watching? And then like Sheamus said, yeah. I'm sorry, I can't make it to the reunion. I'm like, what? The reunion? Bro, what? You're telling me this? I'm like, this is so stupid. This is such fucking stupid. This is what you wrote on your TV. Of all the hosts, I'm sorry. I get a lot. I know kids and families like the Muppets. I saw the Muppets. I seen it, but like, stuff like this should not be on WTV. I'm sorry. But this was just, oh, I hated it. This backstage segment was so cringe too. It was just a waste of time. Air Boom versus Cody Rhodes. So I guess Evan Bourne was on this show. Air Boom versus Cody Rhodes and Wade Barrett. I don't remember a lot from this match. I think Cody and Wade Barrett actually won. It was an match. It was nothing that will grab my attention. I didn't really care too much. Cody and Wade Barrett wound up getting the win, I believe. If I'm wrong, if you guys remember the show, I hope you don't. But if you do, let me know. But yeah, it was just, I don't know why they pinned their champions. They pinned their tag team champions. Like, keep them strong. You know what I'm saying? And if you want someone to get a tag team title opportunity or something, because that's how much they respect their tag team division. They've been like this for decades or years. I haven't seen them treat the tag team division on main roster as important since, I don't know, since the 90s. You know what I'm saying? But no, early 2000s. I'm wrong. I'm stupid for that one. Early 2000s. It was with the Hardys and Dudleys and Edge and Christian, but they've never lately for like over a decade or years, for over a decade at least, they've been treating their tag team division like shit. But yeah, this match didn't do anything for me. Cody and Wade Barrett lost. No, I mean won. Statler and Waldorf speak about the last match. Not even gonna go over this. Who cares? CM Punk confronts John Laurinaitis over what happened with Mark Henry and Del Rio. And John Laurinaitis made a deal with Punk. He says he actually agreed with him. And he said that the only thing we have to do is have Alberto agree to the title match. And Punk he's kind of paused like he had an idea. And he's like, oh, okay. I like this. Thank you. He kind of tapped John Laurinaitis as hard as he could. But yeah, that was pretty much it. And then they're doing a special look for Brodus Clay again. We know where that went. I'm not going over that again. Alberto Del Rio versus The Big Show. The match did nothing for me. And again, you're having your WWE champion face the challenger for the World Heavyweight title, which I still think is stupid. This match went way too long, too. Their matches are boring, Del Rio's and Big Show's, like... And I think Del Rio actually lost. They had their WWE champion lose to the Big Show. Which, one hand, you're keeping your challenger strong, but the other hand, you're making your champion weak. It's just like you book yourself in another corner again. It makes no damn sense. That was a stupid thing about it. So I'm not going to go any farther than that with that situation. Del Rio and CM Punk come to an agreement. Well, Punk forces the agreement. Del Rio was not agreeing to it, and Del Rio was knocked out because of Big Show, and Punk puts him in the Anaconda device, and he pretty much kept him in that submission hold until he agreed that he gets his WWE title opportunity, and he kept holding it in there, and then WWE said, yes, you get your match, and that match was made for Survivor Series. It was going to be CM Punk versus Alberto Del Rio for the WWE title at Survivor Series and at MSG. Gonzo tells Fozzy he could be WWE champion. Another situation, and I guess Dolph Ziggler put one of the Muppets took his arms, pulled his arms out, and wrapped it around his head. Like, ugh, I get a headache thinking about it. But it was awful. I don't know. I hate this show. I really do. Zack Ryder versus not no one more. Jack Swagger versus Santino Marella. Do I even want to get going with this? Muppets were involved. That one was the timekeeper. Another was outside the ring. The other one gave that potion he was making later in the night. He gave Santino the potion. Santino drank the potion and he spit it in Jack Swagger's face and he rolled him up for the pin. 1, 2, 3, and that was pretty much it. That was awful. They probably would still book something like this to this day, but it was just it was horseshit. Zack Ryder versus Dolph Ziggler. It was not a bad match, actually. It was not a bad match. Nothing special, though, which obviously would lead to something later. Zack Ryder would hit the Rough Rider and pin Dolph Ziggler. Again, you're pinning your champions, which pisses me off because WWE doesn't appreciate champions they have. They always ruin them. That's why people don't care about title reigns anymore because they always still did. They did this shit back then. They still did this shit now. And they had Dolph Ziggler lose, which they're making Zack Ryder strong. At the time, they were trying to push him because of how the response from the crowd. Obviously, if you get over on your own, WWE likes to pull that leash back on you. But the match wasn't horrible. And he came with the Rough Rider and 1, 2, 3, and that was it. Michael Cole puts off the Jim Ross challenge because Jim Ross wasn't on Raw again, and Michael's continuing to make fun of him because he's not there. His barbecue sauce or whatever, like that's pretty much what he kept going on about, or his weight. It was just dumb. I didn't like it. It was annoying. And then Hornswoggle, he's flirting with Miss Piggy. It's just so dumb. Like, this is what you put on your TV. It's just like, this is what I sit and saw. Hornswoggle runs afoul of Miss Piggy. I think before this, Miss Piggy was flirting with John Morrison. I'm sure John Morrison at the time was glad that he was leaving this company, that he was being put in shit like this. Seriously. Then the main event was Miz and John Cena. It was extremely boring, just like the WrestleMania 27 match. I don't know if they had any, or their other matches for a matter of fact. I think their best match was at Over the Limit, but I still didn't think that was that great back then. And Miz and John Cena, boring match, boring main event. R-Truth tried to attack Cena with a Halloween mask on outside the ring. Miz couldn't take advantage of it, and he lost at the Attitude I think he lost at the STF. He tapped out. That was it. R-Truth tried to attack Cena from behind, and he got hit with the Attitude Adjustment, and Cena's pretty much mocking him with, "You can't see me with the mask on." This was a horrible show, and how would I have booked this match with Miz and Cena, even though it was pointless, is that, it was building to the match, this Survivor Series. Why would you have Miz or Truth lose at all? You could have just ended it in DQ. R-Truth coming out in the mask, attacking him in the crowd, and you just ended in DQ. So you didn't have any of them lose in this big match heading into Survivor Series. Keep some people strong, but that's classic WWE booking for you. Not make sense, which I'm not very surprised. So that was kind of like that show. We are now on to Friday Night SmackDown, November 4th, 2011, and this had actually a really good start. It had an opening match in the show. It was Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes in a street fight, and this was actually a really good match. I actually really enjoyed it. It was enjoyable from start to finish. This match lasted a while as well. At the end, Cody Rhodes was trying to take advantage, hitting the mask across Orton's face. This was actually the match where Cody finally lost him. I actually liked that gimmick when he had the face mask on and he used the face protector when he broke his face. I actually liked that gimmick. That was actually one of my favorite gimmicks from Cody in WWE. But the match was very good. At the end, he hit Orton with the mask. They went into the ring. Cody was trying to take advantage and all that. In the end, Randy Orton wound up hitting an RKO and getting the win. Earlier in the match, it seemed like that he split himself open at the top of his head. He was bleeding at the top of his head during the match. Obviously, they were trying to block it and everything, and knowing WWE doesn't like blood being on there, especially on TV. I didn't know. I don't know if the ref put any gloves on there or anything, but it was a really good match. I enjoyed it. I don't think they had that RKO spot with the announce table there. I think that was back earlier in the summer with Cody, but that was actually a really good street fight. I would say check that one out. It's probably definitely one match you guys won't remember, but Cody and Orton, a street fight November 4th, 2011 was actually really good. Ted DiBiase versus Tyson Kidd. They tried pushing Ted DiBiase. They tried. This was after that he was aligned with Cody Rhodes for a little bit as his alliance partner and all that, and that they eventually split. Ted DiBiase went on his own. Honestly, I wish Ted DiBiase would have stayed as a heel when he was with Maurice. That was kind of like the best I saw Ted on a singles run, and the babyface run wasn't kicking it. People were not invested. They tried pushing him, which I liked because he's obviously the son of Ted DiBiase. Ted DiBiase Jr. is they tried pushing him, but it just failed, and no investment from the crowd, and they kind of screwed up, and he wound up being backstage a lot after that, and then he eventually got released later in the future. So, but yeah, he had a match with Tyson Kidd, pretty much a squash match. Didn't last very long, and 1-2-3, Ted DiBiase won. Mark Henry won't give Big Show a rematch, so I guess it wasn't confirmed. He's refusing to give Big Show that rematch in an interview and all that. That was pretty much it from there. Alicia Fox versus Natalya. I think this was a rematch on Raw, actually, if I'm reading this correctly, or the week and a half prior, but who cares? It's Divas match. Back then it was a piss break. I believe Natalya won, so there you go. Who cares? I'm not going to go any farther with it. Big Show says he has unfinished business with Mark Henry. I think that he was just really pissed because Mark Henry's refusing to give him his title rematch. Christian comes out again, and still going on that he's asking why supposedly respectively why Big Show's getting another title opportunity, and because Christian still believes that he deserves a world title opportunity. They did this thing with Christian every single week back then. When I was a kid, I thought it was really annoying, and honestly, I think this dragged on a little too long. But I understand why they were doing it, because that was kind of his gimmick. Oh, one more match. They kept doing it every single week. But Big Show had unfinished business. Big Show grabbed Christian's neck at the end. He hit him with a choke slam. He injured his neck from the choke slam. It's storyline. And Christian was supposed to have a match with Sheamus, but I think Wade Barrett took his spot. And Wade Barrett faced Sheamus. The match wasn't anything special. It was pretty boring. I will have to admit. It was just like I couldn't get into it. That was just my honest opinion. And I don't remember a lot from the match either. He was pretty much just taking his spot. I don't remember. I think it ended a DQ. I think Christian interfered, if I remember right. Because the match went on for about 11 minutes at least. If I can look back and see in my notes, or in the video, because I'm looking at it right now. But yeah, the match wasn't anything special, I don't even remember a lot from it just looking at it, and I'll probably not remember later. But Christian was he was outside the entire time during the match. He never really left. Wade Barrett was pretty much taking his place. Yeah, Christian hit the spear on Sheamus, and that kind of led to the DQ, I believe. Either led to the DQ or was after the match, but the match wasn't anything special. Pretty much Christian was kind of confirming that he was still able to take Sheamus out even after the chokeslam. Pretending to sell the injury, but he wasn't really hurt. And then after the fact, Sheamus attacked Christian backstage because he was pissed, and he attacked him back there. Dan Bryan gets ready for his match I believe he was facing Mark Henry this time around. He's getting ready for that. And I think Mark Henry confronted him backstage. Just looking back on it. If I'm looking at it through here. I think Mark Henry confronted him, if I remember right. I know, and Broder's still hyping up the Brodus Clay and the Brodus Clay. Like, here's the thing with Brodus Clay. I'm going to go into Brodus Clay real quick while I sit here and watch this. It's like, you can't imagine what people are thinking. You're thinking you're getting a new dominant monster and then giving him that gimmick. It's just like, it's just funny to me. Just giving him that gimmick. So, yeah, so in that segment when backstage with Daniel Bryan, Big Show's giving him that briefcase. He's pretty much telling him, like, when you have your chance, take it and cash it in. You know, he's pretty much trying to, like, motivate Bryan to cash it in before WrestleMania, even though Bryan wants to cash in before Mania. Sin Cara versus Epico, nothing very special. It was whatever, you know. Epico was a jobber then. He was a jobber for a whole WWE career. I think Hunico eventually came in and ended in DQ. Sin Cara won by DQ, and that was pretty much it. Mark Henry versus Daniel Bryan. That match was nothing too special. It was this main event, and I probably gave it like 2 1/4 stars. You know, Mark Henry was pretty much dominating the entire time. Big Show was at ringside. He was looking on. Daniel Bryan tried getting submission holds on Mark, being the submission technician that he is. And during the match, because he was beating up Bryan so bad, he knocked out Henry. Because Mark Henry was just being him as he usually was. And after he took out Mark Henry, Big Show was trying to get Bryan to cash it in. And Bryan tried to cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase here, which would have been stupid if he did. You want to save it for a bigger moment. They still didn't save it for a bigger moment later on, and I'll get into that in the future and a future show. But Bryan tried cashing in the briefcase, and he did not succeed. He got hit with the World's Strongest Slam, and then Big Show tried attacking him again, Mark Henry again, and he got taken out. And then Mark Henry wound up being standing tall at the end, and that was pretty much it with SmackDown. It was had a good opening match. Everything else in the show did not really play an importance with me. And again, it was another shit build to Survivor Series. Even after that really shitty Raw. So that's pretty much what I think on SmackDown with that. So we're on to the next Monday Night Raw. We are now 13 days away from Survivor Series. This is on November 7th, 2011. And this show was not very good either. It was better than the week before, but it was still not good. I'm going to tell you guys, when I was sitting here watching this first 2 weeks, you know, they started with a strong opening to the Survivor Series. You know, that one strong opening did not play a factor in the Survivor Series because the match never even happened between Triple H and Kevin Nash. And I'm going to be completely honest, at this point, I'm sitting here thinking this is one of the shittiest builds of Survivor Series in history. And I don't even... Like, people are probably forgetting that, wait, are we even building up the Survivor Series? Like, what's going on, you know? Because, like, at this point, I'm kind of thinking, like, are we building up the Survivor Series, or are we just building up the WrestleMania 28? Because that was kind of, like, the issue I was having throughout this. Like, I feel like Survivor Series was used as a build-up to WrestleMania more than Survivor Series. That was my issue. John Cena speaks about Survivor Series and all that. He talks about, you know, how... pretty much talking about how The Rock accepted his challenge. I don't even remember what he said exactly, and I should probably pull that up. But it was just, you know, he was talking about that, and Miz and R-Truth interrupted him, and they were like, they don't want to be overshadowed. They think they run this place. They think they run Raw. They think they run this show, and John Cena pretty much set a tag match up for later that night, and then Zack Ryder actually ran up to help Cena because Cena got attacked by Awesome Truth during the segment, and this set up a main event tag match for later in the night, which, again, it's like giving 3/4 of your Survivor Series match away, which is like, again, it's just really stupid. You know what I'm saying? But segment didn't really do too much for me. Uh, Next was Dolph Ziggler versus John Morrison, and again, John Morrison and Dolph Ziggler did not have a horrible match. If they were actually given time and WWE actually gave two talented wrestlers time, they would actually probably put on a great match and probably the best Raw matches in history or something like that. But they don't do that. But it was actually actually not a good match, but it was an okay match. John Morrison got the win. Of course, you're pinning your champion again. And it's just ridiculous. Like, I hate when you're pinning your champions in a show. Like, why do you pin your champions in a show? It's just stupid. Like, you don't need to continue pinning your champions every single show. It's a waste of time. It's pointless. It makes your champion look weak. If you want to give someone a title opportunity, go through the ranks. Like, WWE's been doing this shit for a long time. I just, go through the ranks. Earn your title. Number one contenders match at least. It's just, pinning your champion is just stupid. I go on about it every single week. They still do it to this day. Mason Ryan versus JTG. Pretty much a squash match. Did not last very long. Mason Ryan got the win. And that was it. Zack Ryder speaks with the Bella Twins. I'm not going to go over that. Zack Ryder's pretty much showing off and all that. Trying to be all that, He's talking about his tag match with Cena later that night. How they should watch and all that. Michael Cole puts off his challenge to JR again, which was expected. I knew this challenge was going to be bad back then, and I knew it was going to be still bad now, and it was just stupid. And Michael Cole was not just annoying because, he's a bad guy again. No, he was just not entertaining, and it was cringe. It just, I hated it. I still don't like Cole now. I thought, compared to all the guys you can give TV time to, you give it to a guy who is an announcer, like Cole, who's so cringe and scripted, and, I just did not like Cole in this. Alberto Del Rio versus Kofi Kingston. The match did not last very long. The match was nothing special. Alberto would pretty much not, Kofi tried getting some offense in, but Del Rio wound up getting the win with the arm bar, and that was it. CM Punk confronts Alberto Del Rio. Alberto Del Rio has a problem with how Punk got his title match that week, and Punk is trying to, Alberto is trying to get Punk to cancel the match because it was not fair because of how he was put in the Icon device that previous week. CM Punk was like, and Punk's kind of toying with him. He's kind of pretending to actually think about it, and he's like, no. And then he said no, and then Del Rio attacked Punk, and they assaulted Punk, and I think Punk wound up getting up, and he would hit the GTS on Ricardo, and that was it. The segment wasn't anything too special either. Jack Swagger versus Santino. Jack Swagger wound up getting his revenge from the week before. He pretty much squashed Santino, and that was it. Santino didn't even get much offense in. Kelly graces the cover of Maxim. Yes, this was a segment. This is your build-up to Survivor Series. Cover of Kelly. A segment like that. Beth Phoenix and Natalya interrupted. They're mocking her because she's a Barbie girl, Barbie doll, and that they're a real woman, which is true, which is honestly true. Let me get into this. I still don't like Kelly now. I did not like her then. I do not like her now. I didn't even like her when I was 10, when I first started watching. I thought she was... It's not like she was a shit wrestler. I just did not like her, and she was just not a good character, entertaining character to me. She felt very forced because she was hot and blonde, as usual. Blonde Barbie doll that Vince likes, and he still likes to this day. It just... Beth and Natalya aren't wrong. Like Barbie doll. She is a Barbie doll, and Beth and Natalya are actual wrestlers, And the segment was just a waste of time. It was not that good. It felt kind of cringe how they were mocking Kelly too. It was so scripted, like usual. Scripted shit that WWE thinks is entertaining when it's not. It was a waste of time. Kevin Nash pretty much returns to explain himself what he did to Triple H 2 weeks prior. And Kevin Nash was talking about how he wasn't totally into Triple H when he first got WWE, and Shawn was pushing for him Shawn was pushing for Triple H. He's like, I see something in this KO, even when he debuted as Hunter Hearst Helmsley when Kevin Nash was still Diesel in the WWF. And I don't know if it was entirely true because they were best friends. So obviously it was just like he just kind of like had to act that way. He was a heel, so he like that's I think how he actually felt, which I couldn't really believe it in his promo. I never really got into Kevin Nash's promos. They just didn't sound. He didn't sound horrible, but it just didn't sound believable what he was saying. Because in real life, Triple H and Kevin Nash are best friends, are like really good friends. So it's just kind of like it felt kind of forced to me, and I just couldn't get into it. But it was just whatever promo, and then Kevin Nash just didn't really. I feel like it just didn't get to the point to me, and you know, it didn't come through how he was talking about how he took out Triple H. He felt like he stabbed him in the back because he fired him on Raw. I don't know how long back. I don't know if it was 2 months before Vengeance. I don't remember, but it was just. It just felt forced, and it just felt like the match shouldn't be happening. It just like with Kevin Nash's age and Triple H, it just felt forced, and I felt like that promo felt forced. It didn't feel like anything that invested me in anything, so I was spacing out too a little bit. It was just like, it didn't feel natural to me. You know what I'm saying? So they go to backstage, and Otunga, they're talking about Brodus Clay, which I already went into this already. And during this segment, CM Punk pretty much is confronting John Laurinaitis, or got in John Laurinaitis' face, and he's pretty much mocking David Otunga and all that, because I think they had a disagreement about Del Rio and how the match was set up, if it's officially set up. And he didn't like how John Laurinaitis is running things around here and all that. But as he's talking to David, David pretty much is mocking Punk. He's pretty much being disrespectful, drinking his coffee and all that. And Punk takes a punch at David, knocks him out, and then Del Rio comes from behind, attacks Punk, and he throws him over onto the table, the catering table. He goes through that, and he's continuing to beat on Punk, and yeah, that was pretty much it. It wasn't a horrible backstage segment. It wasn't great. It was decent. It was building up to Survivor Series, so that was pretty much it, and especially his feud with John Laurinaitis. And then we got to our main event of Raw, which is Awesome Truth versus John Cena and Zack Ryder. What can I say? I did not like the match either. I hated it, actually. It was just a waste of time. I just didn't like it. I really didn't. I'm sorry, but, Zack Ryder was completely over. Let me tell you, he was over. Like, Zack Ryder was over here, and I, they they were pushing him, and then WWE's like, oh, you're too over, so we can't push you anymore, later on. You know how that went with the Kane and Eve and all that stuff. They were pretty much ruined his WWE run. I don't even remember who won this. If I can search that up real quick. I think John Cena and Zack won. But the match was nothing special. It was really boring, and it was just like, I couldn't get into it. John Cena's doing their typical comeback where Zack Ryder's getting beat up the entire match, and then John Cena gets tagged in, gets the hot tag, try to take advantage, try and beat him out of the gate. John Cena saying it's 5 moves of doom, and there's 5 knuckle shuffle, and all that crap. It just was like, it's just like, who cares? You know what I'm saying? The match was boring, nothing special. It just, oh, I'm like looking this back, and R-Truth hold John Cena's foot, and Miz and R-Truth won it. Yeah, they got the win. I don't get why they didn't win last week, or why they didn't do a move like that last week with R-Truth the week before with the mask on and just hold his foot and do that. I felt like a lot of 50-50 booking, but it's just like, I don't know. I just did not like that match, and it's just like Miz and Truth were booked strong, and they were being booked weak, and it was just a waste of time. And if you really wanted to have him win, you could have just pinned Zack. I think he would have been fine there, but I don't know. I mean, they had Cena take the win, but with a dirty finish, so show wasn't that good actually. I hated this. I did not like this show. It's just like, where is this building to Survivor Series? Like, I'm not seeing any Survivor Series build within these shows at this point. It's a big waste of time. Big waste of time. It's like you got 13 days, and like I feel like they barely did any Survivor Series build. But that's just me. So that's kind of what I thought about that show. That show was not good either. So now we're on to Friday Night SmackDown, November 11th, 2011. That we are now a week and a half from Survivor Series at this point, and I can putting a summary into this. This is one of the still in my mind one of the shittiest Survivor Series builds in history, and I'm not liking this whatsoever. It's dreadful getting through these 4 weeks of build, but so SmackDown opens up with Orton. It's your typical opening segment. Randy Orton opens up the show, and I really noticed it. It was really bad here. They piped those cheers up really loud, and it was so bad. I hated it. I did not like that. These cheers and these boos piped into the show is what ruined the show for a while, and why people weren't watching, because it's so cringy. And I hated it with a passion. It just, why would you do that? You know what I'm saying? It's not enjoyable just seeing forced cheers and boos added to a show. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's an issue with me. It's not natural. It's not natural crowd reaction. I like hearing natural crowd reaction, and not hearing the voices of the actual crowd pisses me off. It's like you're forcing people to make it sound like oh, like, we want you to cheer this guy, and we want you to boo this guy. It does just piss me off. So the show opened up. Wade Barrett interrupted Randy Orton, and pretty much set up. I think he set up a singles match for later tonight. Captain versus Captain. Teddy Long came out. I think Christian came out too, and interrupted this as well. But this Christian wound up having a match with Sheamus after this segment, because they attacked Orton, and Sheamus came out for the save, and Sheamus, because Christian was selling supposedly a neck brace, and Sheamus runs out, and while Christian and Barrett were beating on Orton, Sheamus makes a save, and then Teddy's on, oh, it seems like your neck's feeling better, so we're going to put you in a match with Sheamus right now, right here, right now. Because they were supposed to have a match the week prior. And they have that match. The match was actually not horrible. It was actually solid for what it was when I was watching it. But Sheamus wound up getting the win with I believe it was the Broad Kick. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think Christian got injured here for real, because he got taken off Survivor Series later, and he had the storyline neck injury, but I think he actually hurt his ankle, because he was injured for a while. If you guys remember, at the end of 2011, he got injured. He would want to be taken out till about May 2012. Actually, no, he came back, but then he got a concussion. He got injured twice, and all the concussions he wound up having in 2012 would wound up being his retirement. Caitlyn and AJ Lee are backstage with Daniel Bryan, and they're talking about they're asking him about I think they're asking about his Money in the Bank contract, but as he's talking to AJ Lee, because they were actually teasing a relationship between AJ Lee and Bryan at this point, and Mark Henry comes in and he interrupts Bryan, and Bryan's kind of like not afraid, and he's kind of like, he's not afraid to face Bryan. Mark Henry's telling Bryan, you got guts, you really do. But he's like, I'm gonna make sure your guts spill in the middle of this ring later that night. So that was pretty much it. That was actually not a bad segment. I was actually a decent backstage segment. I actually liked that backstage segment. They're hyping up Ezekiel Jackson for some reason, which he hasn't been on TV. And if you guys remember, early 2011, Ezekiel Jackson won the IC Championship, and then he wound up losing to Cody Rhodes. For some reason, they're trying to revamp Ezekiel Jackson, which I don't know why they were doing that, because he was pretty much dead. Teddy Long says that Charles Robinson's going to be refereeing the Usos versus... who was it? Hunico and Epico, that match. Like, oh yeah, for your reward, you're going to be going in a pointless tag match. Sorry, I had to say that. But, yeah. But then Oksana came in again. I think that's her name, this chick. I remember her. Still don't even know if that's her name still, but this was another flirtation with Teddy Long, and I'm not going to go any farther with it. Teddy Long versus Jinder Mahal, the modern day Maharaja. Yeah. Again, I don't like Jinder. But this match was a total squash. Ted DiBiase squashed your future WWE champion. Yes, people at the time probably tells them, oh my God, Jinder Mahal, such a jobber. Those people who ever thought that Jinder was going to be WWE champion in like 6-7 years later. I wish that those jokes actually stayed jokes. But yeah, he was squashed by Ted DiBiase. Nothing special. Mark Henry versus Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan pretty much got destroyed here. I think he actually lost. There was no like DQ or any interference. Mark Henry won, and that was pretty much it. Match wasn't anything special, and Mark Henry wound up sending a statement, kept attacking Bryan over and over again. And Big Show came out for the save. He's like, you think you're tough just attacking a human being, just a normal, smaller human being like that? You think you're impressive? Well, let me show you what's really impressive. So Big Show wound up being put against 3 jobbers in a 3-on-1 handicap match and destroyed all 3 of them. And that was pretty much it. Pretty much sending a statement to Mark Henry. And that was pretty much it from there. Tamina versus Alicia Fox. I'm not going to go into it. You want to know why I'm not going to go into it? Because I didn't even see the winner. I didn't even see the ending. I didn't even give a shit. Again, it's a Divas match. A Divas match. Who cares? Who cares? Back then, every time even now, watching this came on, I went to go take a piss break. And by the time I came back, or I took a shit, I don't even know. But I took a piss break, came back, the match was over. Don't even know who won. Divas match, who cares? It wasn't important back then. I'm not going to treat it as if it was important back then now. So Sheamus talking about whether he's a hothead or not, because they're going on, at the time, they're talking about how Sheamus had that big Irish temper back then. It was like whatever. The interview was like talking about his temper and how he acts and how he attacks people and everything like that. Especially how he attacked Christian backstage that last week, the week prior. It was like whatever. It didn't do anything for me. Hunico and Epico versus the Usos. The Usos were more younger back then. They're still getting established. The tag match wasn't anything special. It didn't really go anywhere. Epico and Hunico wound up getting the win. They would attack the other Uso after the match and send a statement. It seemed that they're trying to create a stable between Primo, Epico, and Hunico at the time. That totally did not pan out because I didn't even see it the next week. That never even followed through. So, yeah, that was pretty much it. Randy Orton versus Wade Barrett in the main event of this show. Not a bad match. The match ended with Wade Barrett getting a thumb in the eye of Orton, and he would get the roll up 1, 2, 3 in his home country of London in the UK. 1, 2, 3. Wade Barrett won. That was pretty much the end of the show with the thumb to the eye. Not a horrible match, but I wasn't really getting into it. Wasn't anything special. Again, these shows aren't good. Like, it's just, I know I'm sounding very negative. Like, for your first podcast, you want to hear all this shit, but like, this is a horrible build to Survivor Series. It doesn't feel like Survivor Series. Your big 25th anniversary. Like, looking back on these shows, this was a horseshit build. really was. So I'm going to go to the... So we're on to the final Raw before Survivor Series. This was actually a 3-hour edition of Raw. Joy. 3-hour edition. Oh. But good thing it's on the network, so it's only 2 hours compared to 3 because commercials and all that. So it didn't feel like it wasn't 3. But it was a longer episode. But this was technically a 3-hour episode because back then they did sporadic every couple of times a year special episodes of Raw, 3 hours, probably for a ratings grab or something like that. So Jim Ross and Michael Cole. Michael Cole does the Michael Cole challenge with Jim Ross. And this was the biggest or longest 15 minutes of my life. I forgot about this segment watching it back. And awful. Michael Cole and Jim Ross were in an arm wrestling match. Michael Cole's continuing making fun of Jim Ross's weight. I'm just like, what's the point of this? You know what I'm saying? So, Jim Ross beats Michael Cole in the arm wrestling. Then they did a dance-off. Michael Cole's rubbing his ass on the on the ring floor like a dog. That's how I would describe it. Like if my dog was rubbing his ass on the carpet of my house, like that's how I would describe Michael Cole in this. Jim Ross is dancing, and his dance moves aren't good either. I don't care what the crowd says. Sorry, Jim Ross. But this was horrible. And then Jim Ross wins the dance off by... It was both horrible in general. I'll outdance them any day. No question. I'll outdance their ass. I actually got some moves, fam. Listen. But this was just awful. I hated that segment. Thank God CM Punk came out and interrupted Michael Cole. I was like, CM Punk saving this segment. You know, Michael Cole's pretty much getting mad that Punk's interrupting it, and Punk's pretty much talking about how, you know, Jim Ross should be at the table and all that, and Michael Cole's always been horrible and all that, which is true. He's always been horrible. And then after that, you know, John Laurinaitis, I think, put him in a tag match. It was going to be, he announced a tag match, Big Show and him versus Del Rio and Mark. Challenger and Challenger teaming up against world champion teaming up. Typical WWE lazy booking. And Michael Cole's pretty much laughing about that. And then CM Punk headbutts Michael Cole, puts him in the Icon device, and that was it. And then he was taken out for some of the show, which was all of the show. Mick Foley arrives to the arena. They thought that their interviewer was waiting for see if The Rock would come out of the limo. It was actually Mick Foley, and Mick Foley's here in Boston. He's actually going to be coming down to the ring later in the show. Sin Cara and Kofi Kingston versus Cody Rhodes and Hunico. Nothing special. It's your typical tag opener that no one cares about. Cody Rhodes wound up getting the win. He does not have the protective mask on anymore. This is actually the first time he doesn't have the protective mask. This is his first time not having it. Sin Cara, Kofi take the L here. Cody Rhodes and Hunico get the win. Santino Marella signed Zack Ryder's petition. Santino was like playing WWE 12, and Zack Ryder comes in and he wants him to sign his petition for U.S. title match of Survivor Series, and Santino's like, I'm trying to play my game, and then he signed it anyway, so it was like, whatever. Vicky Guerrero makes an announcement that Christian will not be in a Survivor Series match because he hurt his ankle and his neck injury. That was a storyline. I think he actually hurt his ankle, actually, at the time. So he was taken out of Survivor Series. And Vicky Guerrero announces a replacement, and I guess Dolph Ziggler was the replacement. When you think about it, they didn't really totally clarify, but Dolph was pretty much the replacement. Dolph came out and said it's pretty much him. Dolph Ziggler versus Mason Ryan. I don't even remember where this match went because the match was really short and I did not care too much about it. It was really short. The match was shit. You know, I don't even know. I think it ended in DQ, but I'm going to just check for clarification because yeah, I'm like looking back. Dolph Ziggler like runs out of the ring And I think the match, what's really stupid is that Mason Ryan, that's the thing about the stupid booking, is that Mason Ryan is just standing out there. Oh, I see. Like, Mason Ryan could just ran out there and got him. I guess this ended in DQ, and then Mason Ryan took out Dolph Ziggler after the match. I think Dolph got DQ'd. John Morrison threw him back in the ring because he was trying to escape, and then Mason Ryan hit him with his finisher, and that was it. Like, whatever, you know what I'm saying? That didn't really do anything for me. Again, still a shitty build. Mick Foley signs Zack Ryder's petition. Mick Foley hosts a tribute to John Cena. He did a This Is My Life segment. John Cena's life. Obviously, this was nowhere near. You'll never top. When they tried doing this with John Cena, I actually did not think it was that great. And it was kind of somewhat cringy at some points. It was some points entertaining, but you'll never top Rock and Sock with that. Like, that should have only been a one-time thing, and that's it. They should have never, ever went with that and did that with John Cena Mick. His Little League coach came out. He would talk about how he was up to bat, bottom of the sixth, and he struck out. And I'm like, bruh. And then, who else came out? I don't even, oh, his former tag partner when he first started his Thugonomics gimmick. I think it was Bull Buchanan came out. And he pretty much talked about how his life fell apart. And that was it. And he talked about how pretty much his life went to the shitter. And it was like pretty much embarrassing. You could tell John Cena's embarrassed. And I don't think it really happened with Bull Buchanan. If it really did, if his life really went down the shitter, let me know, guys. But that was like, bruh. I'm like, really? And then John Cena's father came out and he's pretty much confronting the crowd saying like, you do not tell my son doesn't suck and all that, being that cringy parent and all that, embarrassing you in front of people and in front of you. It's like, and John Cena was like covering his face like, oh, I think he was actually kind of embarrassed that he was doing that. But but it was like, whatever. The segment was just like up and down battle with me. And then The Rock came out. Mick Foley was continuing to go on, and then Rock didn't like it. Rock came out, and Mick think he was going in for a hug with The Rock, and The Rock just hit him with a rock bottom right there and then. The segment was, it was not awful, but it was not great. And you'll never top Rock and Sock Connection. And again, they did not learn their lesson when they did the Bayley This Is Your Life with Alexa Bliss. And that was obviously one of the worst segments in WWE history, which I'm not going over. But this segment did not really do much for me, especially with the build-up. Sheamus versus Jack Swagger. I believe Sheamus got the win with a bro kick, and that was it. The match wasn't anything special, so I'm not going to go over it. The Bella Twins signed Zack Ryder's petition. I believe this is where the Bella Twins started flirting with Alberto. And again, Bella Twins, slutty as usual. Hoes as usual. Money. It's real life, guys. It really is. And they're pretty much checking out Alberto, and then Zack Ryder's like, yo, wait, why are you going to hang out with a guy like that? And the Bella Twins are like all cringe, like, money, But, yeah. Natalya versus Kelly. And again, this is a Divas match. If you think I paid attention to this, you were wrong. I don't even remember the ending to this either. I'm not going over it. Divas match, piss break. Skip. John Laurinaitis sets Brodus Clay's debut. Don't actually remember this backstage segment. Del Rio went in there and talked to John Laurinaitis, and I'm actually going to go check this out real quick. It's just kind of funny looking back on this Brodus Clay stuff, like rewatching this back, all the hype around Brodus Clay, and then they totally just like blew it, you know what I'm saying? So, Matt Striker then tries to interview R-Truth and Miz and R-Truth are not saying a word. No, because like they're pretty much showing how they're upset, how all the hype is around Rock and Cena teaming up and it's not on them, and they feel like the attention should be on them, and they feel like they should be running the show, which is obviously not the case at all, and it's not uh, it's not setting in well with them. Alberto Del Rio attacked CM Punk backstage for a tag match, and he attacked him. He threw him into the one of the buses backstage or outside. I don't really know where exactly where that, but he threw him into that. He attacked him. He was stomping on him, and that was it. Just to weaken Punk before the tag match. And then it was Alberto Del Rio. Weird. They only have 3 names on here. I don't know why Mark Henry's not on the name here, but yes, it was Mark Henry and Alberto Del Rio. Big Show and CM Punk. The match was not anything special. It was your typical tag match. Challenger and Challenger teaming up. Babyface versus your heel world champions. It was nothing special. The match ended with Alberto pinning CM Punk at the World's Strongest Slam by Mark Henry. And that was pretty much it. Punk got pinned, and obviously, when you have your babyface get pinned by the heel, it most likely will lead up to the heel getting the loss at the pay-per-view. And that was pretty much what I was thinking watching that. Santino and Kevin Nash speak about the Royal Rumble. We're not even at Survivor Series yet. They're talking about the Royal Rumble from earlier that year, or are you talking about Royal Rumble? Why are we talking about the Rumble? What was the point of this segment? And then this one up with Kevin Nash giving Santino a boot and somehow giving a statement or something. It was a waste of time. Why are we talking about the Rumble? We're not even at Survivor Series. Like, you're talking about the Rumble. We're not even barely built up Survivor Series. And I think they just announced the tag partners for Survivor Series the Friday, the week before or that week. I don't know, but they did not announce it till less than 2 weeks before the tag team Survivor Series match. It was just frustrating. Wade Barrett versus Randy Orton. The match, I don't know why they had a rematch from SmackDown. It was just I did not care. And I think the match ended in DQ, and that was it. And it ended in a little bit of a brawl, hyping up their Survivor Series match which didn't really hype me up, but it was pretty much trying to hype up their Survivor Series match for that Sunday. Rock returns to Raw. He's pretty much hyping up the crowd, saying, "Finally, I'm back in Boston." He's talking all that. And, Miz and R-Truth confront The Rock. They're talking about how they should be running the show and that they're going to hurt him. And Truth wants to take Rock out. And Miz is like, no, save it. And then Cena comes out. And then Cena and Rock are face to face with Miz and R-Truth, and Cena's pretty much roasting Rock, saying that the only thing he's been doing in the last 7 years is making appearances on via satellite, and Rock's pretty much saying that John Cena has no balls, and then John Cena fires another one back. He's talking about too worried about his mangina instead of worrying about Sunday. I liked is how some of this was forced. Their verbal jabs and their promos they gave were actually really good, and how they would talk back with one another. That's what I enjoyed about their feud. Even though I felt like some of it was forced, I liked the verbal jabs. I enjoyed that. And then this ended with Rock and Cena taking R-Truth and Miz out at the end of the show, and that was pretty much it for Raw. So we're now on to the final show before Survivor Series. We're on Friday Night SmackDown, November 18th, 2011. They actually had a really good opening. They started out with Mark Henry pretty much destroying Daniel Bryan backstage. He brought him down to the ring, destroyed him in the ring, left him laying. He needed medical attention. That's what the show opened up with Mark Henry just destroying, throwing Daniel Bryan around backstage, pretty much trying to get Bryan over as that babyface, that giving that sympathy, which I like, and I thought this was a strong opening to the show. And, as much as I didn't see a lot of strong openings to these shows, and I didn't see a lot of good from this build, with the best, in my honest opinion, some of the best build I was seeing was between Bryan, Big Show, and Mark Henry. And that was my honest opinion. Even though I don't think Big Show was still beginning a world championship for match for his age even back then. But with how they were, the storyline with Bryan, I was enjoying the most. But Mark Henry attacking Bryan backstage, that was actually a really good segment. I enjoyed that part. Sin Cara versus Dolph Ziggler, it was an okay match. I can't take Sin Cara seriously because like I know how he used to botch a lot, or he does botch a lot, and we'll get into that at Survivor Series. But it's just the match was okay. Dolph Ziggler would wind up getting a roll up, holding the tights of Sin Cara for the win. Dolph would get the win, and that was pretty much it. Match was It was anything special. Jack Swagger versus Mason Ryan. Don't remember a lot from this match. I don't even remember the conclusion. I believe Mason Ryan got the win, or it ended in another DQ. I think it was Mason Ryan getting the win, and that was pretty much it. Didn't last very long. Pretty much another match is hyping up for, pretty much they're putting their Survivor Series opponents against each other to get ready for Survivor Series. Justin Gabriel is flirting with Alicia Fox. Did not give a shit. Zack Ryder then comes in. They get Justin Gabriel and Alicia Fox to sign a petition. Big Show comes in, and he signs his petition, and Big Show has no clue that Daniel Bryan got destroyed. Zack Ryder was like, dude, do you not know? And he's like, Daniel Bryan totally got destroyed, and then Big Show's face got really pissed, and he went, and he just stomped off, and he's pretty much ready to go look for Mark Henry, and he's going to go check on Bryan. Hornswoggle and Ted DiBiase are playing WWE 12. I don't know why this was a backstage segment. And Teddy Long came in, and then Oksana came in, and I think it's Oksana. I don't know if I'm even saying the right name. I might be thinking of totally something different. But it was just another waste of time backstage segment, so I'm not going to go far into this. Christian's discussing his recent injuries, and he's talking about again how he wants to get another world title opportunity. He's going on about that again. And he's injured. He's pretty much going to be out for a while and everything. The trainer evaluates Daniel Bryan, and Big Show comes in, and he's talking to Daniel Bryan, and he asks if he's okay and all that, and Bryan's like, yeah, he's good, and AJ Lee's by him because they're studying their relationship and that storyline. Big Show's pissed, and he told Bryan, I'm going to go look for Mark Henry. And that's it from there. This was funny to me. Ted DiBiase versus Derek Bateman, a.k.a. EC3. His first failed WWE run. His first failed WWE run starting 2010 and ending the 2010's fail run coming back. So Derek Bateman had this manager, I don't even remember her name. Maxine was her manager. Kind of cute, but I didn't think she was overly cute like the commentators were trying to make her out to be. This match was total squash. Ted DiBiase gets the win on Derek Bateman, 1, 2, 3, and that's it, because that's how they treated EC3 back then. That's how they treated him now. Are you surprised? No, I'm not surprised. So that's pretty much like what I have to say to that. Big Show's looking for Mark Henry backstage. He's Jinder Mahal and Tyson Kidd standing back there. They're telling Mark Henry that he's gone and that you're not going to find him. And then Jinder Mahal's pretty much mocking Big Show. And then Big Show takes his fist and knocks Jinder Mahal out. The most enjoyable part of the show is Jinder getting knocked out because Jinder sucks. So yeah, I like that. Big Show makes a promise for Survivor Series that he's pretty much going to take out Mark Henry and destroy Mark Henry. And he's going to win that World Heavyweight title. And that, the promo, he's pretty much saying a statement because he's pissed about what happened to Bryan. And he's pretty much saying that I'm going to destroy him and I'm going to hurt him and then I'm going to take that World Heavyweight title. Just like how Mark Henry hurt him. Kofi Kingston versus Hunico. I do not remember a lot from this match. I must have not been paying attention. I should probably start paying attention. Or maybe it's just because it's late and I'm recording this late. But the match overall was probably not been special if I can't remember. I think Hunoko got it. No, I think Kofi got the win. I don't remember exactly, but The match wasn't anything special. It was just another match that was pretty much hyping up, trying to put all their Survivor Series competitors against each other in singles matches. I believe Kofi got the win, so. Ezekiel Jackson and his opponent's mindsets. I'm not even going over this. That was a total fail. They didn't go anywhere with that. Beth Phoenix and Natalya versus AJ Lee and Caitlyn. This was another Divas match, but I do remember this though. I saw the end of this. So AJ Lee got put in the sharpshooter, and AJ, the sharpshooter wasn't just like a regular sharpshooter. Natalya like pushed back, and she like put it like bent her to two in the sharpshooter. It was a brutal sharpshooter. That's what I liked about this match, and AJ Lee sold it well. AJ Lee went up being tapped out, and then Natalya and Beth Phoenix actually looked pretty dominant. They actually went against a good women's wrestler in AJ Lee. AJ Lee, you could tell, showing her aggression in the match, and she lost and tried in a fighting way, and that was it. Orton, Sheamus versus Barrett and Cody Rhodes. The match wasn't anything special. Your typical tag team main event. Barrett wound up getting the win, and that was pretty much it of SmackDown. It was nothing. It was not anything special. The best parts of the show was the opening with Mark Henry taking out Bryan, and then the storyline between him and Big Show. But that was pretty much it. I mean, this build was shit. This build, probably, I thought I've seen shittier, but I honestly thought this was the shittiest build of Survivor Series, in one of the shittiest builds in WWE history. People are probably not going to like that, but that's the truth. I thought this was like one of the shittiest builds I've ever seen to a Survivor Series. And that's just all I have to say about that episode, really. Now we are on to the show that we've all been waiting for, and that is Survivor Series 2011, November 20th. This is a show that we've all been waiting for, the lead up and everything. The big Rock and Cena team up and everything and all that in between. Now, some people may be expecting this for me to say this, and some people may not. I thought this is the most overrated Survivor Series in history, and it is not as good as people make it out to be. Maybe people will agree, and people will not. I don't know, but I'm going to tell you right now, I did not like the Survivor. I did not care for the Survivor Series. It is not the worst Survivor Series I've ever seen. Do not get me wrong. It was an okay show, but that doesn't mean it was a good show. John Laurinaitis kicked off the show saying, I hope you enjoy the show and all that, and his raspy voice and whatever, and it puts me to sleep every time I hear it. But that was pretty much it from there. Dolph Ziggler versus John Morrison U.S. title match. Now, for one, I watched all 4 weeks of these shows, okay? I know John Morrison pinned Dolph Ziggler. What I didn't know is that they were having a match at Survivor Series when Dolph Ziggler was pretty much confirmed, but not clarified either, by the way, that he was going to be in the Survivor Series match replacing Christian. This match, like, here's the thing about this. Like, John Morrison was losing for weeks. Weeks on end. I was watching it. Just got the win. Or hearing the storyline. They even said in commentary he was losing. He gets one win. He pins the champion once. Right? Gets a title shot. Even though his losing streak doesn't mean shit, right? That's how much their records mean in this company. It's just annoying. But they had a match. The match was actually decent. It was actually not a bad match, but the crowd did not give a shit. They obviously wanted Ryder. It made sense to put Ryder in this match, but they did not put Ryder in this match. I don't know why, with the petition and everything. They should have had him face Dolph at Survivor Series, and they did not do that, that was a stupid idea, and I don't know why they didn't. But the match was actually not bad, but it's hard for me to give a shit when the crowd doesn't give a shit when they're chanting Zack Ryder the entire time. So, but Morrison up trying to go for the Starship Pain. He got blocked with knees with Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler hitting the zigzag. 1, 2, 3. He retained the United States Championship. Not a bad match. A decent match for what it was. Decent opener, but the crowd didn't give a shit in the New York Madison Square Garden crowd, and they wanted Zack Ryder, and that's WWE at its finest, not giving a shit. And they threw a match together when the Dolph had a match that would happen later night, and he would be in 2 matches, which I didn't know either because they didn't clarify if Dolph was in the match or not. Beth Phoenix versus Eve Torres for the Divas title in a Lumberjill match. Obviously, I actually forgot this match was even made because when I watched that Raw on Halloween, I didn't even know it was a number one contenders match. I thought it was just a Divas Battle Royal until I was reviewing this, until I was talking about it later. But Beth Phoenix versus Eve Torres for Divas title. The match wasn't anything special till the end. It had a good ending spot to the match, believe it or not. Beth Phoenix hit a glam slam on Eve Torres from the top rope, and it was a nasty landing. It was a brutal landing, but it was a cool looking spot, and I actually liked that spot in the match. 1, 2, 3, and Beth Phoenix retains the Divas title. I think Beth Phoenix was a good wrestler. If she was given the opportunity to wrestle, if it wasn't found this diva mentality of length of matches, but that ending to the match is really cool. And Eve sold it very well, and I liked that ending off the top rope with the glam slam. That was actually a good spot. David Otunga demands an apology from Punk. Punk obviously does not want to give. It's actually an apology to Michael Cole from the Amicon device from Raw. And Punk says he'll think about it and he'll come down to a decision after he wins the WWE title from Beto Del Rio later that night. And the screen goes down to The Rock. And The Rock says he's talking about how he's returned to Madison Square Garden and everything. He's pretty much going to lay the boots asses on Miz and R-Truth. The promo was okay. It was your typical Rock promo. And I enjoyed it for what it was. But it wasn't anything too out of the ordinary from The Rock. Team Barrett versus Team Orton. I want to talk about this because why not? So, Dolph Ziggler got added to this match, and they never fully clarified if Dolph was added to this or not. I don't know if I was just me not paying attention again, but they never fully clarified, which was annoying. Dolph Ziggler just got put in this match to be the first one eliminated and lose in 2 minutes. You could have picked someone fresh and new, and it sounded like they just threw this together at last minute. It was just kind of a waste of time, a waste of a spot where you could have given it to someone else. When you were gonna put Dolph in the U.S. title match anyway. So then they're trying to take advantage of the 5-on-4 situation, and then Kofi and Sin Cara were trying to do a dive over the top rope. Sin Cara, again, totally botched it and landed and hyperextended his knee. And we find out later he hurt his patella and he got eliminated, which I don't even think it was part of the script, but he botched again. Messes up, hurts himself, taken out of the match. And obviously it was not part of storyline. Sin Cara was one of the biggest fails in this company's history, and Sin Cara did not. I don't think I want to blame WWE entirely, but I'm hoping they knew about how he tends to botch a lot, and that man botches a lot, and he was one of their biggest fails by far. And Sin Cara did not impress me. Of all other luchadors I could see, and Sin Cara was just a mess. A big mess. And then he proved in that Survivor Series match him botching a dive over top rope again. It was just a fail. A giant fail. So it was 4-on-4. And I believe Mason Ryan would wind up getting taken out later on. He would get eliminated, I think, from Crossroads. And then it was now 3-on-4. The advantage was now going to Team Barrett. Kofi was trying to take advantage. I know Orton and Sheamus are struggling. They get the tag on Kofi. Kofi got the hot tag. He's on fire. He's taking out all the guys. He's taking them all out. And then Barrett hits the Barrett barrage on the outside. Kicks his head off on the apron. And then hits him with Kofi with waistland. 1, 2, 3. That's it. Now it's 2-on-4. Sheamus and Orton versus Jack Swagger, Hunico, Barrett, and Cody. And it's 2-on-4. Sheamus and Orton have the disadvantage at this point. So they're trying to catch up. Sheamus hits Jack Swagger with a broad kick, I believe, after he get eliminated. I think he got DQ'd. Yeah, Sheamus they were going on with this Irish temper again, as they usually were. And Sheamus just kept stomping on Jack Swagger near the ropes over and over and over again. And Sheamus would get eliminated by TQ. He would not get pinned, not counted out, or anything like that. He would get DQ'd because he did not answer the 5 count with the ropes. And Sheamus was DQ'd and eliminated, which left Randy Orton by himself 4-on-1. After that, Sheamus was obviously pissed. He bro kicks Jack Swagger. Randy Orton takes advantage. 1, 2, 3. Swagger's eliminated. Now it's 1-on-3. Uh, they're still trying to take advantage of the 3-on-1. Wade Barrett, Cody, and Hunico. Cody makes a tag and everything. Orton's trying to fight him off. It gets a little crazy near the end. Hunico tries to go for a dive and he hits the springboard and he gets hit with RKO midair, which is a cool RKO spot. The crowd popped huge for that. 1, 2, 3. Hunico is eliminated. Now it's Orton against Barrett and Cody. They're trying to take advantage. It gets a little crazy. Randy Orton's trying to recover. Wade Barrett's trying to take advantage of it. He takes down Wade Barrett, but Cody goes in for distraction, pretty much sacrificing himself. Cody gets hit with the RKO, but he's not the legal man. But then Barrett takes advantage, hits Orton with Wasteland, and 1, 2, 3. Wade Barrett and Cody Rhodes are the sole survivors in the Survivor Series match. And what I think about this match, it was not a bad Survivor Series match. The ending was decent with the 2-on-1, the 1-on-3. Overall, it was not a great Survivor Series tag match. You know, it was nothing like entirely special that people will look back on and go watch. But the ending was decent. It wasn't a horrible match, and that's all I'll kind of say on that. But Wade Barrett and Cody winning, I actually approved of that. John Laurinaitis checks Alberto Del Rio. So Alberto Del Rio is kind of hanging out with the Bella Twins backstage and everything. And it seems like Alberto's not taking his WWE title match seriously. And John Laurinaitis is like, "Are you taking your world title match seriously?" And Del Rio's like, "I am taking it seriously," and all that. And he's like, "Did you see what I did to Punk last week? Did you see what I did to him?" He's very confident, and especially pinning him on Raw the 6 days prior. And he's very confident, and he thinks he's going to go in there and beat Punk with a clean sweep, and he's going to be going out hanging out with the slutty Bellas, after the show's over. The ring is reinforced for this next match, and that's Big Show and Mark Henry for the World Heavyweight title. The match, I did not care, personally. The ending had a decent spot. Big Show went on the top rope, and he tried to go for an elbow, and he hits the elbow drop from the top rope on Mark Henry, which I thought that was a cool spot. The only spot of the match that I thought was cool. Overall, the match was just a waste and boring to me, and I just didn't care too much. Big Show was actually trying to do wrestling moves and all that, and be athletic, and the elbow drop was kind of cool. But the match ended in DQ. Mark Henry hit a low blow on Big Show. They should have had if they weren't going to do it at Mania, they should have done it at Survivor Series in front of that hot Madison Square Garden crowd with Dan Bryan cashing in. But they did not do that either. I don't know why. They're probably trying to push it longer. But, yeah, the match ended in DQ. Mark Henry was trying to take out Big Show again and break his leg or ankle with the chair across his foot. Big Show moved out of the way. Then Mark Henry got the chair around his ankle, and Big Show did a leg drop on the chair where it's wrapped around Mark Henry's ankle and pretty much injured Henry, and that was it. So then we went backstage, and Awesome Truth interrupts Barrett's interview because he's talking about, how he's very confident after getting that win in that Survivor Series match, and Miz and R-Truth feel like they're being overshadowed by everything going on with that, and everyone, they want to be the sole attention of everything. And they're talking about how they're pretty much going to prove that they will beat John Cena and The Rock later tonight. And then we get to the WWE title match, CM Punk versus Alberto Del Rio for the WWE Championship. This was obviously match of the night. That's obviously match of the night. It was definitely my favorite. It was definitely not the greatest WWE title match I've ever seen, but it was definitely my favorite match of the night. I gave it 3 3/4 stars. Punk while getting the win with a roundhouse. He would hit the roundhouse kick. Del Rio was trying to get the armbar on and everything, take advantage of it to get the submission hold, but it's reversed, and he gets hit with a roundhouse kick. And Punk puts on an anaconda device, and Alberto taps out, and CM Punk wins the title and begins his historic long WWE title reign, which would be 434 days. And we'll get into that if I get into future reviews with that, I will. But that would start his long title reign that I didn't expect to be long, but it was. And it was a good match. And Punk won the title match. Big pop from the crowd. Match of the night. I enjoyed it. That's probably the one match on the show I would say for you guys to go check out. And now we're on to the main event. The Rock, John Cena versus Awesome Truth. This match is overrated. The crowd was hot. By far, they were hot for The Rock. And I liked the reaction of the crowd. The crowd was what made, it's one of these situations where the crowd made the match and made it more enjoyable, but the match itself was not that good. And it was just Awesome Truth getting their ass kicked the entire time and pretty much them promoting WrestleMania 28 and building up their feud between those two. And when I watch Survivor Series, I want Survivor Series to feel like Survivor Series. I don't want Survivor Series to feel like that show where you're just promoting WrestleMania. Survivor Series should be treated as just as important as WrestleMania. It should be treated as your big four. And I feel like Survivor Series was overshadowed by WrestleMania build-up, which I feel like that shouldn't have been the case. And I feel like Survivor Series was not built up to be Survivor Series. It was just built up to promote Rock and Cena, and that's all this show was surrounded about was Rock and Cena and promoting that for Mania. Survivor Series did not feel special. The build-up was shit. It was not good. No one cared. Rock would wind up getting the win. He would win the match, and that was it. Rock and Miz and R-Truth, they tried fighting back, but they just looked like chumps out there. Like, all that dominant and all that rebelness from them and Hell in a Cell and Vengeance, and it was just like, it felt like a waste of time. And then they would split them up not too long ago. I think it was the next night, actually. I'm not going to go into that because I'm just going up this here and now. But it did not feel like a build up to Survivor Series. It felt like a big waste of time that was just building up for WrestleMania. You weren't building up Survivor Series. You were just promoting WrestleMania. I'm not saying WrestleMania build is bad, but I'm saying when you have your big four Survivor Series, you shouldn't be overshadowing that with your WrestleMania match that you're pretty much trying to force your corporateness down our throats. Because it felt forced. Even though the exchanges between these two was great, but it was so forced for over a year, you overshadowed Survivor Series for WrestleMania build. And Survivor Series should be treated better and more important. Which, granted, Survivor Series the last 3 years here currently have been the best pay-per-views, and WrestleMania has been the shit. WrestleMania hasn't been like fantastic since WrestleMania 30, been 2014. But Survivor Series the last few years has been a top pay-per-view, but here it was definitely not the top pay-per-view. It was overshadowed by Rock and Cena and WrestleMania build. No, that's just my honest opinion. I just the build was shit. You built it around Muppets. The shows weren't enjoyable. The best build that I saw was from Kevin Nash. The build they were doing was between Kevin Nash and Triple H, and this wasn't even on the show. They were not doing a good job building around the Survivor Series match. They set up within less than 2 weeks. They had a Halloween edition with divas dressed up in costumes in a horrible battle royal and Muppets hosting a show. It's just comedy acts, and it just they were not building up Survivor Series. They were just promoting Rock and Cena and around that, and it was just overshadowing what Survivor Series should be or what it can be. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what I thought of the show. What did I think of Survivor Series overall? It wasn't a horrible show, but it's overrated, and it's not a great show. If I were to grade Survivor Series on 11, I would give it a 6 out of 10. It's it's overrated, and the match of the night was CM Punk versus Alberto Del Rio. What did I think about the entire build? Like I just said, I felt like it was overshadowed by Rock and Cena promoting, and it did not feel like a Survivor Series build, and it was probably one of the worst Survivor Series builds in history. And as you can tell, I'll try to make these better in the future so I don't forget outcomes and all that, because it's so many matches within 4 weeks. But these shows did not benefit for this. It did not make me excited going back to go watch this. It just was a big waste of time. And it was definitely one of the worst Survivor Series builds I've seen. One. I'm not saying it's the worst, but it's one. One of them. Because WWE now is worse than they were back then. But that's all I have to say on that. This was my Survivor Series build-up review. Survivor Series 2011 season. And that's kind of my thoughts on everything. The build-up was trash. Survivor Series was overrated. Hot crowd. Overrated show. Nothing special. It was overshadowed by Rock and Cena WrestleMania 28. That's all I have to say. Peace out, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be doing more of these. There's not going to be an upload every single day, but it will be consistently throughout every single week. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what I can improve on and all that. I'll make sure to remember some outcomes and all that. That was obviously a struggle there, first time doing this. So, alright. Peace out, guys. See you later.